It happened in a blink, then it detonated. With cameras locked in and the arena buzzing, Angel Reese snapped, and the league felt the shockwave instantly. A timeout turned volcanic. Words flew. A headband sailed. A chair skidded. Officials froze. Teammates stared. Before the horn could rescue the moment, Reese stormed away, leaving silence where noise had lived seconds earlier. By morning, the punishment landed like a hammer. Fined, suspended. And suddenly at the center of a crisis Chicago never planned to face. This wasn't just a bad night. This was a fracture. Behind the scenes, phones lit up, emergency meetings formed, and damage control replaced game prep. Coaches whispered about control. Executives debated precedent. The locker room split between loyalty and exhaustion. And the league office, watching closely, calculating consequences that stretch far beyond one outburst. Angel Reese has never hidden from heat. She thrives in it. But heat can burn bridges, and this time, the flames reached the foundation. Every clip replayed online sharpened the narrative. Every pause in the video felt louder than her words. Fans argued. Rivals smirked. Sponsors waited. The sky panicked. Because when a star loses control on the biggest stage, the question isn't what happened. It's what breaks next. Is this discipline the reset, or the spark? Is Reese being silenced, or saved from herself? One thing is certain. The league just crossed a line it can't uncross, and the fallout is only beginning. Tonight, everything changes. And nobody escapes the consequences ahead. Angel Reese didn't arrive quietly, and she never intended to. From the moment she stepped into the WNBA spotlight, she carried more than a jersey. She carried expectation, defiance, and a reputation built on refusing to shrink. Every rebound came with a stare. Every bucket came with a message. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was daring the league to tell her she didn't belong at the center of it. That edge didn't come from nowhere. It was forged long before Chicago. Long before the cameras followed her every move. Reese learned early that being loud meant being seen, and being seen meant survival. Praise and backlash followed her in equal measure, and she learned to feed on both. Confidence became armor. Swagger became identity. And when doubt crept in, she drowned it out with intensity. In college, that intensity turned her into a lightning rod. Fans loved her or loathed her, rarely anything in between. She embraced the villain label, leaned into confrontation, and told herself pressure was proof she mattered. When she entered the pros, that mindset didn't fade, it multiplied. Chicago didn't just draft a player. They drafted a symbol. A face. A spark meant to jumpstart relevance and drag attention with it. Early returns felt validating. Double-doubles stacked up, headlines followed. Cameras found her even when she wasn't involved in the play. But beneath the surface, the weight began to press. Every mistake was magnified, every reaction dissected, and every loss felt personal. Teammates noticed the shift. Coaches felt it in meetings that ran longer, sharper, heavier. What once looked like fire started to flicker into friction. Angel's relationship with authority has always been complicated. She listens, but she also challenges. She absorbs, but she pushes back. When rotations didn't make sense to her, she asked loud. When whistles went the other way, she reacted. To her, it was passion. To others, it was disruption. The line between the two blurred as losses piled up. Comparisons made it worse. Every game, every broadcast, every social clip seemed to measure her against someone else. Different styles, different paths, same spotlight, and with each comparison, the pressure tightened. Angel internalized it all, telling herself she had to carry more, do more, be more. The burden became exhausting. The joy thinned. Inside the locker room, patience wore down. Not everyone burned at the same temperature. Some wanted calm, some wanted order. Angel wanted urgency. Those differences didn't explode overnight, they simmered. Glances lingered, conversations shortened. Trust felt fragile by the time that fateful night arrived. The breakdown had been rehearsed by weeks of stress. The eruption wasn't sudden, it was inevitable. And when the dam finally cracked, it exposed something far deeper than Angaran identity under siege. And a star, teetering between dominance and self-destruction, with everything about to collide. The game itself was already simmering before it boiled over. Missed calls stacked, bodies collided. Every whistle felt personal. Angel Reese paced the sideline like a caged storm, jaw tight, eyes locked on the officials as if daring them to meet her stare. Chicago needed a spark. What they got was an explosion. During a dead ball, Reese erupted, arms slicing the air, words spilling out, fast and furious. A headband flew. A chair tipped. The bench recoiled. Cameras zoomed. The arena went from roar to gasp in a heartbeat. Officials moved in. Teammates tried to pull her back. It didn't matter. Reese was already gone, storming down the tunnel before the final horn could even pretend to restore order. The clip hit the internet before the clock hit 0. Slow motion, freeze frames, lip readers, soundtracks added, narratives locked in, and within hours, the league responded with cold precision. A fine and a suspension announced without ceremony, as if urgency itself was the message. But here's the twist that snapped the 20 night in half. What happened on the floor wasn't the real trigger. According to multiple reports swirling through league circles, the punishment had been The outburst was the last domino, not the first. Meetings had already happened, warnings had already been issued, and the patience that once cushioned star behavior had quietly expired. Inside the Sky's offices, panic set in fast. Coaches were split between defending their player and protecting the room. Executives debated optics versus authority. One source described the mood as triage, not discipline, because the fear wasn't a single suspension, it was contagion. How much longer could the locker room absorb the tension without cracking? The first shocking detail leaked late that night. Several players had reportedly demanded clarity from management immediately after the game. Not accountability. Who sets the tone? Who enforces it? Who answers when the line is crossed? Silence, they warned, would be read as permission, and permission would break them. By morning, another layer surfaced. An internal conversation, described by sources familiar with the discussion, centered on precedent. If this behavior passed, what would stop the next eruption? If it didn't, would the franchise lose its most visible star? It was a brutal fork in the road. Choose control and risk alienation. Choose leniency and risk collapse. Then came the most unsettling turn. The suspension was labeled indefinite. No timeline, no roadmap, just a pause that felt like exile. Fans split instantly. Some called it a necessary boundary, others called it a betrayal. Social feeds ignited with side-taking, receipts, and rage. Rival fan bases poured gasoline. Former players weighed in with careful words that still cut deep, and Angel Reese, silent. No apology, no clarification, no softening, just a blackout that made the noise louder. Insiders claimed she felt blindsided. Others said she felt relieved. One thing was certain, she wasn't backing down. The anger hadn't evaporated, it had calcified. As the league watched Chicago scramble to steady itself, a chilling question began to circulate in private texts and public timelines. Alike. What if this wasn't discipline but a line drawn for an exit? Because once a star is suspended without a clock, the story stops being about a moment and starts becoming about a future. And somewhere between control and collapse, the next move was already forming. Unseen and unstoppable. The tension didn't cool after the suspension, it metastasized. Practices turned hollow. Film sessions felt surgical. Every empty locker became a question mark. Chicago tried to project calm, but inside the building, the air was brittle, humming with the kind of anxiety that precedes a rupture. Coaches tightened rotations. Veterans whispered. Younger players watched their phones, refreshing timelines that refused to slope. Every hour without Angel's voice felt intentional, and every silence sharpened the blade. Then the second twist detonated. Every silence sharpened the blade. Then the second twist detonated. Late one night, a report surfaced that changed the temperature entirely. Not a statement, not a denial, a leak. According to people briefed on internal discussions, the Sky had quietly canvassed options contingency planning. They called it, not a trade demand, not an ultimatum, a temperature check. The implication spread faster than the facts. Chicago was bracing for life. Without its lightning rod, that's when the locker room fractured in plain sight. One camp argued the suspension had to hold or the standard meant nothing. Another camp bristled, warning that the franchise was risking its identity to appease discomfort. The divide wasn't loud, it was lethal. Group chats splintered, warm-ups grew colder, and every camera angle became evidence for a side. The league office noticed. Sources described a series of calls that escalated from concern to containment. The issue wasn't one star's anger, it was the message sent to every team watching. Where does passion end and authority begin? Who decides? And how public should discipline be when the brand is on the line? No memo could settle it. No precedent fit cleanly. The WNBA's growth has always ridden on stars who bend the frame. Now the frame was pushing back. Social media poured accelerant. Clips were stitched with speculation. Old moments resurfaced, recut as prophecy. Commentators split hairs between leadership and liability. A former champion cautioned about losing rooms. Another warned about losing souls. Even rivals weighed in, careful with words that still landed like punches. And then, a cryptic post appeared from a Sky team, mate quickly deleted. endlessly screenshotted that read like a plea for structure without naming names. The damage was done. Sponsors began to hedge. Campaigns paused. Deliverables reassessed. Not canceled yet. The pause was louder than a pullout. It signaled uncertainty, and uncertainty is poison to momentum. Meanwhile, ticket demand wobbled. Not from apathy, but anxiety. Fans wanted clarity. They got riddles. Behind closed doors, the most volatile conversations circled the same question from different angles. Can a franchise lead a star, or does the star lead the franchise? The answer dictates everything: discipline, messaging, roster construction, even patience. One executive reportedly warned that indecision would be interpreted as weakness. Another countered that rigidity would be read as betrayal. Both were right. Neither could win. Then came the quietest explosion of all. Angel Reese's camp, according to reports, requested a meeting private, urgent, and non-negotiable. No leaks from inside the room, only the echo of what it represented. A standoff framed as dialogue, control framed as compromise. And the clock, suddenly, was no longer indefinite, it was ticking. As word spread, speculation sharpened into expectation. Would Chicago recommit publicly? Would conditions be set? Would a pathway back be drawn, or would the silence stretch into separation? Fans refreshed feeds like lifelines. Rivals prepared takes. The league held its breath. Because once contingency planning becomes conversation, the story shifts from discipline to destiny. And when a star meets a system at the edge of its tolerance, something has to give. The only question left was whether Chicago would bend or whether Angel Reese would force the break, changing not just her future, but the league's understanding of power itself. The fallout hit like a tidal wave, fast and merciless, swallowing everything in its path. Within hours, timelines became battlegrounds. Hashtags splintered the fanbase into warring camps, each convinced the other was rewriting reality. Clips looped endlessly, some slowed to magnify rage, others cropped to soften it. Every frame became a verdict. Every pause, a confession. There was no neutral ground left. Supporters rallied hard, framing the suspension as selective discipline, a punishment for intensity in a league that sells intensity when it's convenient. They pointed to history, 2 moments where fire was celebrated until it came from the wrong voice at the wrong time. Passion isn't a crime, they posted, amplifying screenshots and side-by-sides, daring the league to explain consistency. Jerseys flooded comments sections. Loyalty became performance. Critics pushed back with equal force. They called it accountability, not censorship. They warned about culture, about rooms that rot when standards bend. Former players weighed in with measured tones that still landed heavy, cautioning that leadership isn't volume and that trust is fragile. Analysts broke down body language like game tape, tracing a narrative of escalation that felt damning to those already convinced. The noise reached the league office, where concern turned into calculus. Officials monitored sentiment curves, sponsor reactions, and broadcast partners' questions. The issue wasn't one suspension, it was brand stability. Growth depends on stars, but credibility depends on rules. The balance had never felt thinner. Behind closed doors, messaging drafts multiplied, each word tested for spark or soothe. None were released. In Chicago, the emotional cost showed up in strange ways. Players dodged microphones. Practices stayed closed. Coaches answered questions with phrases that sounded safe but felt hollow. Fans noticed the absence more than the statements. Every game without Angel felt heavier, not because of the box score, but because of the unanswered why. Attendance wobbled. Energy dipped. The team looked like it was holding its breath. Sponsors hesitated publicly and negotiated privately. Campaigns paused under the language of alignment. Influencers took sides. Reaction videos racked up millions, dissecting motives with surgical confidence. A single emoji from a rival star ignited a comment war that lasted days. Silence became strategy and indictment, depending on who you asked. Then came the personal turn. Messages surfaced from youth players who saw Angel as proof you could be unapologetic and still win. Others shared stories of teammates burned by volatility, arguing that protection matters too. The debate moved from basketball to identity, from fouls to fairness. It stopped being about one moment and became a referendum on how women are allowed to lead. Through it all, Angel Reese remained quiet. No statement, no soft landing, no performative contrition, just absence. Some read it as strength, others as defiance. The vacuum made room for everything else: rumors, projections, fears. Every hour without clarity stretched nerves thinner. Late one night, a subtle shift rippled through the chaos. A respected reporter posted a single line, carefully worded, hinting that discussions were active and delicate. Not resolved, not stalled. Active. The word hung there, vibrating with possibility. Was it reconciliation? Conditions? A move? The speculation reignited instantly. Because in a storm, this loud, quiet, only means something is moving. And as the public argued itself hoarse, one truth became unavoidable. Whatever happens next won't just answer the suspension. It will define who holds power when stars and systems collide. The next step is coming. And when it does, it won't be subtle. Just when it felt like the storm had peaked, the floor dropped out in the early hours before dawn. A new detail surfaced quietly at first, then everywhere. Not a leak, not a rumor. A shift. Sources close to the situation indicated that the meeting requested by Angel Reese's camp had happened. And it did not go the way anyone expected. There was no apology tour, no submission, no promise to dim the fire. Instead, the conversation reportedly centered on terms of autonomy and respect, spoken with the confidence of someone who knows her value and is prepared to test it. That's the twist that rewired the narrative. Because this wasn't about lifting a suspension, it was about redefining power. Angel Reese, according to those briefed, made it clear she would not return to business as usual. If she came back, it would be on a path that acknowledged her leadership on her terms. If not, she was ready to let the consequences fall where they may. The word that echoed afterward wasn't discipline. It was direction. Chicago's response was immediate and chillingly measured. No public confirmation. No denial. Just a late-night update about ongoing evaluations and long-term alignment. Alignment with what? Exactly. The ambiguity sent shockwaves through league circles. Because alignment isn't language you use when everything is fine. It's language you use when you're preparing for change. It's language you use when you're preparing for change. Then came the tell. A subtle roster move, minor on paper, seismic in context, signaled that the sky were hedging, not committing, not cutting. Positioning. Around the league, front offices noticed. Phones buzzed. The calculus began. If Angel Reese becomes available, even theoretically, the ripple effect would be massive. Systems would shift, timelines would accelerate, and narratives would be rewritten overnight. The league office monitored closely, wary of a precedent that could redefine star leverage. Sponsors recalculated risk. Broadcasters leaned in. Rivals circled. Fans braced. Because when a franchise and a star stare each other down, the outcome isn't compromise, it's a reset. Angel's silence, once deafening, now felt deliberate. Not retreat. Preparation. Her absence wasn't an apology. It was leverage. Every day without resolution increased the stakes. Every game without her sharpened the contrast. And every whisper about what's next amplified the pressure on Chicago to choose. Will they recommit publicly and rebuild trust with conditions attached? Will they double down on authority and risk losing their most magnetic force? Or will they do the unthinkable, move on, and let the league absorb the aftershock? Here's the cliffhanger that changes everything. A timeline has emerged, not public, not confirmed, but shared in enough circles to feel real. A window where decisions must be made, or the situation calcifies into separation. When that window closes, there's no rewind. This isn't just about an outburst anymore. It's about who controls the future when stars refuse to dim and systems refuse to bend. Angel Reese is at the center of it, unflinching, unreadable, and unmoved by the noise. Chicago is staring at a fork in the road with consequences on both sides, and the league, watching history inch forward, knowing the next move will echo far beyond one jersey, one locker room, one city. The silence before the decision has never been louder. Now it's on you. Because this story doesn't end in a press release or a carefully worded statement, it ends in the court of public opinion. And every voice matters. Angel Reese didn't just spark a controversy. She exposed a fault line running through the WNBA itself. Power versus control, passion versus order, stars versus systems. And whether you see her as a misunderstood leader or a ticking time bomb depends on what you believe the league should become. So speak up, drop your take in the comments, and don't hold back. Was the suspension necessary accountability, or a panic move by a franchise afraid of its own reflection? Did Chicago protect its culture or sacrifice its future? And most importantly, should Angel Reese bend to fit the system, or should the system evolve to handle stars who refuse to be quiet? This debate isn't going away. More leaks are coming, more reactions are brewing, and the next decision trade, return, or total rupture will reshape careers, locker rooms, and the league's identity in ways we haven't seen before. If you're still watching, you already know how this works. Hit like if you want the truth without filters. Subscribe if you want every twist the moment it drops. Because when the next bombshell hits and it will, you won't hear it anywhere else like you'll hear it here. Stay locked in. The next chapter is about to detonate.